get an interview. I get an interview selling digital media and ads, or being a manager for that. And my interview went well. The first interview went well. Well, like with the top manager. He loved it. He was like, let's get you in for a second one. I'm like, perfect. So I think the interview went 2 days later. I met with the manager lady. This lady was Zach's manager, by the way, if you guys didn't get there.
Who was?
She was Zach's manager. So it was maybe like a week had passed. So I'm interview number 2, hitting it off. You know, I have my experience. You know, it seems good. And then she ghosts me. I don't get a call back. I follow up maybe like 2 weeks later. I was like, hey, ghosts me. Calls me back 6 months later. Like, hey, I want to bring you in for a second interview.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
6 months. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm like, whatever. Because I hated my job so much.
Yeah.
I hated my job. And I'm like, well, whatever, let's do it. So I go to the meeting, and because of my background in sales, I was like, I have to approach this meeting 2 ways. I have to show her that I know how to navigate this.
Welcome to the Winners Podcast. Today is our first episode. We just want to thank you for joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about the idea behind the podcast, a little bit about Shannon and Zack. I'm Zack, and this is Shannon.
I'm Shannon. Guys, welcome to the Winners Podcast. I'm so excited. This has been in the making for the latest 2 years. It might be longer.
That's scary.
And I only say 2 years because that's the date of the list of guests that I sent you.
Uh-huh.
It's got to be more than that, because I put that list together sometime after I was like, I wanted to do a podcast.
Well, it's 2 years for you. It's what, 3 months? 2 months from me?
Yeah.
It's 2 months for me. It's kind of funny.
I think so. It might have been 2020. Whenever podcasts really got big, I was like, I want to start a podcast. Just never put any legs to the idea.
Well, I'm glad that you put legs to this idea.
Here we are, 2+ years later, starting this journey. I'm excited.
I am too, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a wild ride.
It's going to be interesting, man. So far, we have a pretty cool list of people that are coming on. I'm excited to hear what they have to say. A little bit of, I think before we get into anything, we should talk a little bit about what this is, what the podcast is.
We should.
What do you think the podcast is? Since you're the co-host.
Entrepreneurship.
We're co-hostings.
Entrepreneurship, golden nuggets. If you want, or if you are an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur in the future, well, this is a podcast for you. We're going to talk about how to attain that, how to grow, how to facilitate what you need to do to be an entrepreneur or business owner or something of that nature. And what better way to learn from people that are doing it.
I'll tell you what, man. The word entrepreneur
is
and
tough.
Entrepreneurship is probably going to beat the brakes out of me this whole series.
It's tough because I have to like say it in my brain like 5 times before I actually say it.
Entrepreneurship.
So within the next however many times you see this podcast and we say it wrong, don't just bear with us. It's a tough word.
Yeah. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful and have a fat tongue. But anyways, we're going to move forward. No, but I mean, you nailed it on the head. This is a podcast about business entrepreneurship and kind of all the little, the things that go into it. A lot of people want to start businesses. A lot of people don't know where to start. I feel like with this podcast, if we can at least nudge them a little bit into the right direction, I'd feel good about that.
That's super important, man. Like specifically for me, I love podcasts. I like to listen to a podcast, at least one a day. So I never thought I would be a part of one ever. Never thought I could.
Man, it's 2023. It's easy to do a lot of things. Like there's people making movies.
It's crazy
with their cell phone. So like a podcast obviously is not beyond the realm of possibilities. Granted, I'm in the video photography space.
That helps.
So
tremendously.
It helps. However, even if these things weren't of it, like if I wasn't a videographer, it's still something we can do on the phones. So what I'm saying is it's like, I don't want to say life, but things have gotten easier with time in regards to like the antiquated ways of doing stuff. Like before, if you wanted to like put on a show or a podcast, what'd you have to do? You had to get on TV.
True. That's true.
Like,
Yeah. You'd have to have a talk show.
a talk show. I mean, podcasting has always kind of been around, but it really took off in the last like 3 years. But yeah, everyone's in the house recording content. So I'm like, at the very least, I want to put some content out, and why not be beneficial to everyone out there? I feel like when I was starting the journey of starting the business, I had a lot of questions, and I relied on the internet and YouTube to kind of like YouTube and like different like groups. Like Facebook groups were huge, and I was able to kind of just experience something throughout the journey of business, and then be like, what are other people doing in this space? And kind of just, so I figured this is just another resource for people to be like, oh, I never really thought about doing this way, or whatever.
Or you're learning from someone else's mistakes. My mom used to say this. This is very Panamanian of her.
There you go.
She would say, if you don't learn, you feel.
That's big. That's huge.
Right? Isn't that
huge?
Genius?
Yeah.
She would say that all the time. If you don't,
Shout out to Alba. Rest in peace, Alba, to
Mama Dukes.
giving the long-term gems.
All those gems, I live by those gems. Still to this day, man. She would say that all the time. She's like, Zachary, if you don't learn, you feel. I'm like, and I think she would always say it, and I didn't really think about it, or like, whatever. I was like, all right, mom. Now I'm like, yo, it's so true. Like, if you don't learn, you feel. Like you can learn from someone else's mistakes so that you don't have to go through those trials and tribulations and just kind of like start off strong. If you're starting a business, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean?
I'll tell you what. I feel like I live off that model indirectly. Like you don't. What is it? You don't learn, you feel.
If you don't learn, you feel.
If you don't learn, you feel. My journey in business has been very different because I feel like sometimes I could be a little stubborn just in my own personal life.
That's funny.
But like stubborn for like stupid things, like things that like.
Give us an example. Give the viewers an example, please.
So I make decent money for myself. I do well for myself, right?
How much do you make a year?
It doesn't matter. I do well for myself, and I would say probably one of my most important tools in my wheelhouse. People would be like, "Oh, the camera." No, my car. My car is probably one of my most important tools. You know where I'm going. You know where I'm going.
Continue with this. I want to know where you're going.
We're going there. We're going there. So from time to time, I get into spaces where I like, and I'm going to give you another example of this too. That I'm like, you know what? I did this, so I'm not going to do this. And sometimes I stand in that, good or bad. So my vehicle, one of my biggest tools. Like yesterday, I put 350 miles in one day, like from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Wow.
But 350 miles on my car in just one day in the area. My car doesn't reverse. My truck
I've had to push the car a few times.
Only once, maybe twice. And that's
Probably
because the
3 times.
basketball court we were at, there was no.
It was like 3 times, bro.
It doesn't matter. It's been almost a year now.
It's terrible.
Almost a year.
That's probably one of your worst traits.
But it's taught me how to problem solve and how to plan. There's always a little nugget. Anyways, so what I'm saying is, I understand that my car is a big tool, and I understand that if it goes, it could be a big detriment. But also, I've also put a lot of money into the truck already, so I'm in a spot where I'm like, do I want to put more? That's where the stubborn comes into play.
Man, I've been telling you this for years.
What? That I'm stubborn?
No, not that you're stubborn. That your car is trash and you need a new one.
It's
and
actually,
you don't want to finance one.
Regardless, right? It's still a decent truck.
But it doesn't reverse though, and it looks mediocre at best.
If I clean it up,
which you're not.
The thing is, I don't want to get a lease, right?
You don't have to get a lease.
Because I drive too much.
You don't have to get a lease, like I've been saying.
Doesn't matter. So, all this to say, guys, the reason why Zach's so annoyed by this, we're gonna talk a little bit about Zach now.
Oh well, tell me my story.
Yes, Zach, what's your background before to what you're doing now?
Okay, so I worked for a local news station selling TV and digital media advertising for a few years. That didn't work out. Wasn't very good at it. Made some good money, but didn't work out. Transitioned to selling cars at BMW.
That's why he don't like it.
I was a car guy for a little bit, 5-6 years. Finance, I was a finance manager for about 4 or 5 of those years. Four out of the 5-6 years I was in the business. Did that for a while, loved it, super fun, crazy hours. Didn't want to continue to do it, and then
you were working crazy hours.
I was working nuts, crazy hours. I had Saturdays. What's a Saturday?
Yeah,
I was off on Fridays. Even then, I still going to work sometimes, and Sundays. But pretty much, I was a slave to the dealership. I worked like 75 hours a week.
I remember we'd have like a long weekend. We're like, oh, we're gonna do this.
And I won't be there. I'll be there afterwards.
I gotta work.
Yeah. So
I remember I worked at AT&T for far too long. I think it was like 6 years, 7 years. Same thing. Weekends gone, holidays are gone, and I was the manager. I felt like when I became the manager, I'm like, all right, now no,
you have more responsibility.
And
making probably less money than what you were making when you weren't a manager, right? Or
I was making less money. I was making less money as a manager than I was as a rep.
Crazy,
because I was a top selling rep. Which, anyways, but that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you went from digital media sales or like advertising space sales.
Yeah.
Into the finance world.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you felt like you were trash at the media job.
Oh, it's terrible.
So now looking back, that was several years ago. What have you learned? Because you're in finance now, but you're still dealing with people. You're still customer facing. Like, what have you learned? Like in that time, what's probably the biggest thing you've learned from that kind of outside sales job to technically it's kind of outside sales now, but
do you
it's
want me to tell you what I do for a living now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm a mortgage loan officer.
I mean, it's so secretive.
Yeah, I'm a lender, so I help people get into houses. I don't sell real estate. I help them. I lend money.
That's good.
What I do. I enjoy it. I love it. It's fun. So what did I learn? I think how to handle rejection. Rejection is probably the biggest one, because especially when you were like, I would cold call, and not only cold call, I would like just show up to random businesses like, hey, my name is Zach. I'm with blah, blah, blah. And would love to help you advertise your business. And they would just be like, cold shoulder, like, get out of here. Stop soliciting me. That would happen frequently until like I got into the business. Like, okay, it takes me going into 10 businesses to just get 1 or 2 maybe potential clients. So just kind of like handling that. And even now, like, even when I was in the car business too, like handling that rejection of someone saying like, nah, that's too much. Saying, okay, how do we get them from saying that's too much to, okay, I got this, and ended up spotting the car and doing all those different things. So rejection would be the biggest thing. Like just being like, hey, you have to go through a couple of different people, but you'll get a sell or 2 out of it. Just kind of handling that.
That's good. I mean, a lot of people don't handle rejection well.
No.
Typically in sales, because they're like, what if they say no? It's like, if they say no, that's good because you got an answer.
Yeah.
You know how many times I've been ghosted? Someone's like, let me think about it.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you need to think about?
And then like a day later, you see that they're using someone else's services that are cheaper and less, not as good as yours. And you're like,
With a job I do.
And then they come back. Do they come back sometimes?
From time to time. Sometimes. So like.
And you can't be like, yeah, I knew it. You just got to be like,
I'm only human.
Welcome.
I'm only human.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, right? I've been in situations where like a client says no or whatever. It didn't work out. Some time passes and then I get a phone call. So, hey. I'm like, hey there again. You get that. You get the follow-ups. So I did this. It didn't work out. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm only human. Sometimes I'm like, should have got me first, but.
Or even more petty, be like, I'm all set.
Listen.
See you later.
To give you a story about rejection and either handling it well or not well. I had already been in sales for a good amount of time. You're part of this story, kind of. You'll understand when I get there.
Cool.
I was in insurance at this time. I was good, but I wasn't really doing the job. Like I knew what I could do, but I was just like,
you're mediocre.
I was already out the door. But someone told me that there was a job opportunity in this place in Chicopee for like a sales manager. So
that's funny.
So somehow, I get this I get an interview selling digital media and ads or being a manager for that. And My interview went well. The first interview went well. Like with the top manager. He loved it. He was like, let's get you in for a second one. I'm like, perfect. So I think the interview went 2 days later. I met with the manager lady. This lady was Zach's manager, by the way, if you guys didn't get there.
Who was?
She was Zach's manager. So it was maybe like a week had passed. So I'm interview number 2, hitting it off. I have my experience. It seems good. And then she ghosts me. I don't get a call back. I follow up maybe like 2 weeks later. I was like, hey, ghost me, calls me back 6 months later. Like, hey, I want to bring you in for a second interview.
Oh, yeah, wow.
6 months. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm like, whatever. Because I hated my job so much.
Yeah.
I hated my job. And I'm like, well, whatever, let's do it. So I go to the meeting, and because of my background in sales, I was like, I have to approach this meeting 2 ways. I have to show her that I know how to navigate a sale, because obviously I'm going to be managing people and how to deal with people. So I got to first show her what I can do, but also find out what took so long. Like, there's 6 months past. I need to understand what's going on so I can get clarity and maybe overcome any objections that she may have.
Yeah.
So I'm in the second interview. It's going well. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, so this is the second interview. Everything's gone, I feel like we have productive conversation. Give me insight. Do you have any reservations with the resume that maybe I can clear up and we can maybe discuss before I move on? And she was like, no, resume looks good. My only concern is that you don't have experience in the media or ad space.
Pause right there. Funny thing is, I had no experience in the media ad space when I got the job.
That's fine though, but I was applying for the manager job.
I know, I get it, but I'm just saying though, like anyways,
the people that I'm yeah. So, but me applying for the job, I understood that already. I understood that I'm going into a field that I'm not familiar with, but at the end of the day, you're still managing people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're still selling a product.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
So keep in mind where I'm at in my headspace, and I don't recommend this to do this to anyone, but I felt confident.
So confident.
I felt confident. I was like, I can understand why my lack of experience in this field can be concerning. It's like, however, I have, X amount of experience dealing with people, managing people, selling products. And I could tell you one thing. I was like, I'm 1,000% confident that if I would have been hired 6 months ago, this conversation would have been a lot different. And you would have been like, okay, I should have hired you. Long story short, she didn't call me back after that. I challenged her. I'm like, don't waste my time. Don't meet with me.
Yeah.
Don't call me back. But anyways,
I think you would have been way qualified for it. Like, you would have figured out the product itself. You would have figured that out.
The hardest thing is the product, the terminology.
Yeah, the product is the product. But as far as everything else, I think you'd have been a great manager, Shannon.
Hey man, but it didn't work out.
Didn't.
It always
look
works
at you
for
now.
them, because look at me now.
Look at you now.
I'm managing my own business,
making paper,
making bread, and not buying new cars. That's what we're doing.
That's your.
So that's my story on rejection.
Your story on how'd you get here to being a business owner? Quickly.
Kind of. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Did insurance, did sales. Now I'm here, man. I'm doing what I love. I work with people that I like. And that's the other thing, man. Working in your own business, you work with the people you like.
Yeah.
Like when you work for whatever, let's say I use AT&T because I work there. You're dealing with whoever walks in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, but sometimes there's people that are hard to deal with. There's some people that don't understand. A lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So the fact that I can work with people that I like, the people that respect what I do, it's even more rewarding.
That's so huge, because even in being a lender and obviously working with real estate agents and working with that and that relationship, like, I'm not for everyone, right? My personality, the way that I communicate, or the way that whatever, I'm not for everyone, and I don't want to work with everyone, right? That's kind of just how it is. Like, cool if you want to work with me, and let's have a conversation about, like, what are you looking to accomplish and how I can help facilitate that growth, or vice versa. Like, that's what it should be, like a collaborative approach, saying like, how can we grow each other's business? Not like, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Like, no, like, I want to work with someone that's willing to say, okay, we may not be best of friends, but there should be some form of like something. You know what I mean? A
Some
relationship.
chemistry, some
exactly,
camaraderie.
something. And we don't know that until we have a conversation, right?
Absolutely. That conversation is huge. I think one of the biggest things in my career that has been successful for me has been like the setting of expectations. And it can be little things. I'm not even talking about like you hear someone saying like set the expectations. Like it can sound like that's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's easy. It's like, imagine we just sit down for a meal and say, like, hey, Zach, thanks for coming in. Real quick before we get started, we're going to do X, Y, Z, and then we're going to go this, and then we're going to go there. And then we'll be done by this time. And we're like, we have any questions so far? Get right into it. Yeah. Something quick like that. But like in every interaction. So like, if I do a photo shoot, say, hey, thanks for coming in. I had fun. Was everything easy? I'm like, all right, this is what next looks like. Blah, blah, blah. And then go from there.
You manage their expectations up front.
Yeah. And I can't say that I'm 100%. I'm not 100% with that. I mean, there's times that I drop the ball, which happens for whatever reason.
Anyone does, you know what I mean? You're human.
But I think over time, that's been like my biggest thing. And that's in every field that I've been, like set expectations. Because most of the time when there's like a miscommunication or someone's upset, a lot of times it was a mishandling of expectations or just straight up no communication.
Yeah.
So I think those two are huge, because if there's no communication, if you don't hear from someone, you start formulating your own responses in your head, and that could be so far from the truth. Yeah, you're right. It could be anything,
or even trying to communicate something to someone. Like you may interpret what I say to you differently than I interpreted. I expected it for you to receive it. You know what I mean? Like, so having that clear communication, as clear as you can be. I'm terrible at analogies. You guys will find that out as we go. I was going to give one.
I was hoping you did.
That I was like, it's kind of like when you park a car.
Here we go.
And you try to reverse out of the parking spot.
I wouldn't know.
You like that? You see what I did there? No, I'm terrible. Oh, you guys are going to find out. I am terrible at analogies. But yeah, man, like I'm excited for this podcast. We're going to have some awesome people on here. We're going to be able to have some great nuggets, or AKA cupcakes. And yeah, we are, I'm thrilled, man. It's going to be fun.
Like Zach said, I'm excited. We're excited. We have a lot of cool things in the hopper, as people say in the sales world. Have it in the hopper. Feed the front end, whatever the lingo is. We have some cool stuff happening, and expect for a new episode every week.
Every
Wednesday. We don't know what time yet.
We're TBD.
But we'll get there. I'm thinking 9. I feel like 9 is a good number.
I'm thinking about when people are driving into work.
Maybe 8. 8, 9, 8:30. Doesn't matter. Whatever day it is, it'll be consistent unless we announce it.
Correct.
So if we say Wednesday at 9.
Communication is important, like we just learned.
Exactly. Whatever it is, expect an episode. Feel free to follow us, ask us questions. But for now, see you later.